Hi, I'm Michelle, 33, female. Let me tell you a bit about my journey. About 8 years ago, I hopped on a plane and left Congo to escape the war that was going on at the time. Don't get me wrong, I love my home country, but I couldn't see myself surviving another day in that place. I always remembered what my parents told me before they passed away. They would always say that I needed to grab every opportunity to succeed in this life, so I did just that and made my way to the States. On top of fleeing my country with barely enough money other than what was needed for my ticket, I had just found out I was pregnant. My man was off fighting in the war, and he had passed away before I could tell him the news. It broke my heart. Honestly, his death was the catalyst for me finally deciding to pack my bags and move, because Congo was just full of heartbreak at the time. And if I stayed a second longer, I was afraid I'd lose my mind. There I was, pregnant and on my last leg, stepping into the land of opportunity. It wasn't easy, but by some miracle, or maybe just a bit of luck, I made a way for myself. I started a little business selling traditional African waist beads and other African-themed jewelry and throwing in some hair braiding on the side. People loved my work, saying I was really talented. And when they found out I was from the motherland, they seemed to trust my services and my products even more, noting them as something genuine and original. And that fueled my motivation. Soon enough, I had my own shop, and things were looking up. Meanwhile, Dean was growing into this smart and funny kid, always brightening my toughest days. He reminded me of his father, strong yet always smiling. My life was going great, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, it's a good feeling when you see your hard work paying off. I had a community that appreciated what I did and that kept me going. Well, things were sailing smoothly with my little shop until one day a family came into my shop. The lady, who I learned later on was Marie, asked me to help her find the best looking jewelry because she wanted to welcome her Gambian pen pal who was coming to visit. Of course, I got to working, advertising all sorts of things for them. They loved it. They had never seen this type of African jewelry before, and all of their jaws were on the floor when they learned that I handmade each and every single one of them. There was one member of the family who had been eyeing me up and down since they got in, and it was getting on my nerves, but I had to remain professional because I had a job to do. He clearly took a liking to me, and we struck up a conversation. He started laying it on thick, making it pretty obvious that he was flirting with me. Even when his mom, Marie, was telling him to leave me alone, he kept going, like we were teens in high school. Despite my clear signals about being a single mom with no plans of diving into a relationship anytime soon, this man persisted. It also didn't help that this man's name turned out to be Dean as well. Imagine that. I mean, it was a pretty common name. I had chosen that name for my baby boy because I remember seeing a handsome actor in the hospital room when I was giving birth. I wanted to give Dean his father's name, but I was scared of how my son was going to navigate this very westernized world with such a traditional name. So Dean was chosen, except someone made an error on his birth certificate, hence the double N in Dean's name, but I didn't mind it. I quite liked it. When I explained this story to Dean and his family, they were astounded. Marie said that we had to at least become friends because it wasn't every day that they met another Dean. I thought that was quite odd because the name seemed common enough to me, but hey, who was I to judge? These people ended up staying in my shop after closing hours, but I low-key didn't mind. We all just seemed to click. Marie was the sweetest. Janie, Dean's sister, was so nice and cool, and Dean was gassing me up, so it was a very good time. I had made my first proper friends in this strange land, and it had taken 3 years to do so. I was very happy. Even after Marie, Janie, and Dean left, Dean had promised that he'd make more of an appearance so that he could peruse, as he put it, but we both knew what he wanted deep down. He started visiting the shop almost every day, buying jewelry under some excuse or the other, for a friend or for a sister's friend or for a friend's sister. He said it all. I didn't mind at all because business was booming with all his purchases. And just when I thought he'd given up, he'd come back to my store, flirting with me, buying some things and then leaving. Then, one day, he met Dean when the babysitter cancelled on me last minute. The way he interacted with my son showed me a different side of him, a caring and loving side. He wasn't just being the crazy flirt he always was. He was soft. And he seemed to be genuinely interested in interacting with my son. It melted my heart, and I started seeing Dean in a better light. I started thinking to myself, would it be so bad to fall in love again? So I decided to give Dean a chance after several months of him visiting the shop and asking me out. He almost didn't know what to do with himself when I said yes. We started dating, and he turned out to be a sweet and caring partner, and I was slowly falling in love. Dean, my son, even started warming up to him and would even call him Dada sometimes. Time flew, and before Dean hit his 6th birthday, Dean proposed to me. Life was taking an unexpected but not unwelcome turn, and I was here for the ride. Our wedding day was a dream come true. You need to understand, as someone who was literally fighting for her life every other day back in Congo, that having such a beautiful and lavish wedding almost felt surreal. I couldn't stop crying. I was so happy. Everything was going smoothly, and we were all having a blast. Marie, Dean, and most importantly, Dean, my little ring bearer, were all over the moon with happiness. I felt like I was floating on cloud 9, unstoppable and overjoyed. Throughout the festivities, I chatted a lot with Jenny, Dean's sister. She appeared genuinely happy for us, and her maid of honor speech was very heartwarming. She expressed her wishes for nothing but the best for Dean and me. It was touching, and I felt blessed to have such supportive people around me. So imagine my surprise when I received a very interesting message from her on my wedding night. Jenny sent me a view once message with some seriously nasty content. I had to read it repeatedly, questioning if my eyes were deceiving me. But no, there it was. A shady text about how much she hated the idea of me being with her brother. I was utterly shocked and hurt. Babe, what's going on? Nothing. Don't worry about it. You look upset, and that's the last thing I want you to be, especially on your wedding night. Now drop the act. Tell me what's going on. Well, I don't know how to say this, but your sister said some pretty nasty things to me just now. What? What things? Let me see. You can't see it. She sent it as a view once message. Well, what did she say? She said the idea of us together makes her sick. She said a lot, babe. A lot of hurtful things. Are you for real right now? Why would she say those things? She loves you. Didn't you hear her speech? Damn it, I almost broke down crying. I knew you wouldn't believe me. I'm not saying I don't believe you. It's a lot to take in. I mean, I've never known my sister as someone to say that type of crap, you know. Okay, then why don't I call her and put her on speaker? I'll tell her I'm alone, and I'll ask her to repeat what she was saying. Okay, fine. So I dialed Jenny's number, and she answered. I didn't even have to do much to prove that she was just a wolf in sheep's clothing. Hell, ugh, what do you want? Shouldn't you be on your honeymoon? I am. Where's Dean? He's showering. Listen, Jenny, earlier in the night I got a text from you. It was quite concerning. I just wanted to ask about it. Are you dense or something? You can't read? I want to hear it coming out of your mouth. You clearly had a lot to type out. I was just wondering if you had anything else to get off your chest. You're just as pathetic as you look. You know what I said. I don't want to see you two together. It makes me sick. I mean, who do you think you are, waltzing into this family like you know us, like you belong? What's that supposed to mean? I just think that you should be back to your damn country. We don't want you or your little snotty kid here. Don't you dare talk about my son. I'll talk about whoever I want, however I want. Besides, all he is a good-for-nothing little... That's enough! Jenny, what the frick is wrong with you? Are you serious right now? I almost didn't recognize you. You sound so racist. Dean, what the hell? You told me he was in the shower. Yeah, well, I lied. I told him about your stupid little message. Did you really think I wasn't going to tell my husband about what you said? He just needed proof. And I'm so sorry for doubting you, babe. Johnny, what is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? I can explain. Don't bother. I'm telling Mom about this. I don't believe you. After I hung up on Johnny, Dean was quick to apologize and assure me that he would set things right. It was like he was on a mission, wasting no time in cutting off ties with his sister for the sake of preserving our family. After we tried to enjoy the rest of our honeymoon, he was the one to break the news to Marie about Janice's hateful message. And we all gathered for a family meeting to address the situation. Marie was just as shocked as I was to hear her daughter spew such ugly things. Janie, in tears, started playing the victim, insisting it wasn't fair that her words came out wrong, but I wasn't falling for it. Dean, true to his vows of protecting me and Dean, took a firm stand. He told his mom that he wanted nothing to do with Janie, emphasizing that he was now raising a black son, and his priority was shielding Dean from people like Janie in America. Oh, come on, Dean, you're being ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is that you're a racist. I mean, how did this even happen? When did you hold such backward views? I don't know what she told you, but listen to me. No, I'm sorry, but I don't know if we can ever repair this. You know how much I love Michelle and Dean. Hell, you even supported me when I was dating her, and now that we're married, you're talking like this? You need a psych ward or something. Mom, please help me. No, dear, I'm afraid I can't. Not this time. I didn't raise my kids to be hateful. I don't know what any of this is about, but Janie, I'm extremely disappointed in you. Despite Marie's anger, she couldn't completely sever ties with her daughter, unlike Dean. They grew distant, but the connection remained. Whereas Dean and I were determined to never see Janie's face again. 3 more years passed and Dean, now 8, was having a great time with his dad, enjoying his childhood, and I was feeling quite blessed and appreciative of everything that life had given me so far. In those 3 years, Dean and I hadn't spoken to Janie like we said, although she occasionally tried to reach out. I made it clear she wasn't welcome in my home. She bombarded me with texts claiming she had changed, but I wasn't in the mood to find out. Life was good with my husband and son, and we recently discovered we had a kid on the way, so I was savoring this peaceful moment in my life. But just like a roller coaster, the highs eventually have to come down. One night, as we were all relaxing in the living room, Dean received a call that his mom was in hospital. Her respiratory problems were worsening, making it increasingly difficult for her to breathe. We rushed to the hospital to find her in critical condition. She looked awful, and Dean was really scared, asking me if his grand-gram was going to die. I didn't want to worry him, but I also didn't want to lie, so I told him that we needed to wait for the doctors to tell us what was happening. Marie's health was declining really fast, and the doctors gave us little hope. We spent the night by her side, recalling old memories and struggling to hold back our tears. She would go in and out of consciousness, and eventually the doctors had to sedate her so that she'd feel some sort of relief. But even when she was sedated, it's like we could all feel the life slowly being drained from her. I had grown to love that woman. She had always been so kind to me. I'll never forget the joy on her face the day we met in my shop. She was just a beacon of light. Sadly, at 2:32 that morning, Marie passed away peacefully in her sleep. Breaking the news to Dean was heart-wrenching, and Dean was obviously shattered. We felt like we were just getting our lives started, and this felt like we were taking 10,000 steps back. It was a tough time for all of us. Days passed, and we found ourselves at Marie's funeral, paying our respects. Dean, usually strong-willed, was overcome with grief. I thought this loss had changed him forever. Even when we received the inheritance money Marie left us in her will, it felt bittersweet. Accepting it seemed like acknowledging her departure. To make matters worse, Johnny couldn't be bothered to attend the funeral. Can you believe it? After all her pleas for a second chance, she acted as if she couldn't care less. I was furious, but both Deans were too consumed by their grief to entertain Johnny's thoughtlessness. As the months passed, the void left by Marie's absence felt overwhelming. Even with my growing belly, I couldn't help but think about how she wouldn't have the chance to meet another grandbaby. The weight of her not being here was just too big to ignore. I got a text from Johnny one day while chilling in the garden. She was all apologetic, saying sorry for everything and explaining she didn't show up at the funeral because she felt ashamed. According to her, she was on this journey of self-improvement. I get distressed, but I don't know how someone fails to attend their own mother's funeral. I guess everyone copes in their own way and I can't judge. Despite her not being there for Marie's funeral, I couldn't help but feel a bit sad for Johnny. With Marie gone, she was left with barely anyone who could stand her. Her text surprised me, though. When I kept on reading, I saw that she wanted to take Dean to a newly opened adventure park, claiming they needed to catch up on some aunt-nephew fun. She said that I owed it to Dean to give this relationship a chance. She was urging me to prove to her. I was wary. But given the circumstances and feeling a tad sorry for Johnny, I agreed on one condition. I was coming along because, let's be real, I still didn't fully trust her. The day of the adventure park date arrived and Johnny seemed genuinely excited, all smiles and positive vibes. It almost reminded me of the first time we met at my shop years ago. As the day went on, I started feeling more comfortable around her. Johnny seemed genuinely interested in patching things up, and I was starting to let my guard down. But as luck would have it, we got separated in the crowd. I called out for Dean and Johnny, but there was no sign of them. Panic started to set in. Maybe it was my slower pace, being a pregnant woman in a bustling theme park, but I was genuinely worried, and that's when I had a light bulb moment. I started calling out to my son in Lingala, a native Congolese language that I had taught him. Lo and behold, I heard him responding, and I managed to find him. "I found you, Mama!" "Yes, you did. I'm so proud of you for being so brave and waiting for me. Now, where's your auntie?" "I don't know. When we got lost in the crowd, she was pulling on my arm really hard, though." "Oh?" "Yes, and she was saying something about how I'll pay. You'll pay for what you've done. But I told her I don't have any money." I was furious. What is this heifer talking about? Why was my son going to pay? Just as I was about to call her on my phone, she called me. Johnny called, sounding all smug and stuff, telling me to listen up. "I have your son in an undisclosed location right now." Before I could tell her, she was sorely mistaken. She started laughing like a witch. "What on earth are you talking about?" She spilled the beans that she'd planned all along to get me away from Dean so she could take him somewhere unknown. I was both mad and scared. How could she even dream of messing with my kid like that? Johnny just continued to laugh, saying it was payback for all the time she felt rejected by me and her brother, and that she had something that needed to be returned to her. "Give me the inheritance money that my mom gave to you, or else I'll ship your son back to where he came from." "What? You want my inheritance?" "It's mine, and I'll be damned if I let some immigrant take it away from me. Now hurry up. I want you to send it to my account details, and then I'll let go of your son." "Johnny, you have clearly fallen and hit your head, because no sane person would ever say crap like this. Are you all right?" "You have a lot of mouth for someone whose son has just been kidnapped." "Kidnapped?" "Yes. Have you not been hearing me?" "I've heard you loud and clear, Johnny. It's just that, well, my son is right here with me." "What? What are you talking about? He's right here." Then there was a pause, and then Johnny screamed bloody murder, realizing that she had grabbed the wrong kid. "Looks like your plan didn't work out after all, huh? Now you have to answer to a very angry parent about their missing kid. That's what you get for threatening my son." "You Don't think this changes anything. I have friends in high places, you know, and I'll get you and your son one way or another. Yeah, good luck with that. Now excuse me while I call the cops on the kidnapper. Before she could speak, I cut the phone. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to save this random kid from Johnny's evil plans. Because of her ignorance and bigotry, she grabbed a random black kid and assumed it was Dean. Could you believe it? How pathetic. Dean was furious when I called and explained the whole crazy situation. He felt guilty, thinking he'd let Dean down as a father. I reassured him that he did everything right and that Johnny's actions were on her, not him. Besides, she was getting arrested and would be behind bars, and I hoped she'd stay there for a good long while. The kid's parents were over the moon when they reunited with the kid that Johnny had accidentally kidnapped. They couldn't stop thanking me for calling the cops and helping to bring their son back safely. It felt good to be appreciated, but the whole ordeal left a bitter taste in my mouth. I just couldn't imagine someone being so evil and so vile. She literally stole a kid because of money. People in this world are sick. Seeing Johnny being taken away in handcuffs near the theme park was a crazy moment. She screamed and yelled, making a big scene, embarrassing herself even more. It was clear she didn't understand the gravity of her actions and how awful she truly was. I know Marie was looking down at her with shame. Trying to kidnap a child is no joke, and she is about to face the consequences. In the aftermath of it all, I was emotionally and physically drained. The trust between us was shattered, and I couldn't fathom why Johnny would go to such extremes. It was a dark chapter in our family history, and I knew it would take time to heal, if it ever could. Dean and I had a heart-to-heart about the whole situation. We vowed to protect Dean at all costs and agreed that Johnny had lost any chance of redemption in our eyes. I mean, we were pretty set before. But this time we were serious. There was no way we would let a convicted criminal anywhere near our family. It was a hard lesson, but it reinforced the importance of family and the lengths we'd go to keep each other safe. I felt a wave of relief, but the damage was done. Johnny's betrayal had wrecked whatever trust we'd started to build. Some things just can't be fixed, and Johnny had messed up big time. I promised myself I'd do whatever it took to keep Dean safe, even if it meant keeping him away from his own aunt.